Good evening, everybody. In this People's Goals program, we welcome you all. And then tonight, we are going to have a neighboring relationship and then Myanmar Revolution journey. So it has been that 2 years that our revolution has come across. And then right now, when we have come to this, our world has been globalization, and then it's a village right now, including China and other neighboring countries. With regards to Myanmar political issues, they are kind of like quite interested in. And very recently, Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gan has come to Myanmar and then discussed with the Myanmar military dictators, generals, and then they have shown that they are closer to them. And then in Thai, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, China, Bangladesh, Indonesia. So we have like track 1.5 dialogues were held in India and in the last weeks. Similarly, in order to solve Myanmar issues, Indonesia has not only met with the SAC, but also with the NUG, with the relevant people for several times. And then the foreign minister has also kind of like make announcement as well. And then if we looked at Myanmar neighboring countries in this Myanmar revolution journey, there is very rare neighboring country who has helped with this revolution. And then in this right now on the ground, it is like that. But then it is their opinion or the opinions of their citizens. It is their so. To what extent their opinion could affect our revolution, and then the revolution bodies, in order to have better relationship with the neighboring countries, what they can do, what they should be doing, this kind of things will be discussed. And then this, we have the speakers today, and then we have Dr. La Jozo, and then Myanmar historian, and then Professor Myint, who is a professor of political science, international relations department in Carleton College, and then Salai Khen, who is also a former minister, and then Master Sandra, we have invited her, but then because of the internet connectivity, so I now you has come to here as a moderator. So we would like to start, and then all the speakers are here, and therefore we would like to introduce you to our speakers. First, to Siamala Jozo, Dr. La Jozo Mingalaba. So are you in good health? So it is good, but then it is I don't have much problem for the time being. And then right now, can you also talk about and also explain what kind of support you are doing, and then like introduce yourself, please. So I will have to introduce myself. Yes. Then one thing is that I was like a part of the I am like 33 members of the Yebo Dongje, and then in 1976 we have had Burmese Communist Party, and from 1976 to 1989 we were at the Burmese Communist Party's armed revolution, and then as much as I could. So I open kind of like medical kind of like school, medical school training, this kind of thing I have done. So, and then in 1989, when our parties, it has kind of like dissolved, and then my parents were over 70 at that time, and then I kind of like to support them. I have been in China and then have been living in China as an asylum seeker. And then in 1990, General Solomon came and then came to request on the um, so these people are our friends, and then right now they are very old, and then they are resting in our country. And then with regards to humanitarian ground, on the humanitarian ground, we have accepted them, and therefore we cannot let them go back. But then, so we will not be letting them do the political Burmese politics. And then when we arrived earlier, we have lived in a very quite difficult situation. They were telling, Tanya is telling us that the security reason, you might have heard about as well in 1990s, Dr. Say when ministers Wu Wenko, right now in Kunming, in a hotel here, he was assassinated. And therefore, in the Nawata at that time, so they were planning the assassination at that time. And later on, so later on, things were kind of like more freer. And then some of the, when some of the leaders were dead, and then like when internets are online, then we were able to write freely, and then like we have been kind of like permitted to do our work. So in when my father passed away after 2012, I was able to do study more. And then when my parents were uh, and ill, then I could not do much. But then right after they passed away, I was able to do more. And then like for example, Peking Review, which is in English, and right now they have like other newspaper I kind of like listen to. And the following the development of China, I kind of like for when I arrived here in 1976, it was kind of like very poor. Within 20 to 30 years, when they opened up and then have invited like the uh, the thing, and then people came to be very free. And then people, I think that people will kind of like feel that way because they are in other countries. But then when you see other people in other countries are happy, they want their countries to be like this as well. And then I think it will be the same. For example, if you are in the Singapore, if you are in South Korea, if you're in Thailand, or if you're in the United States, then when you see the joy, when you see what they enjoy, the happiness, you, and then when you are thinking about your country being in poverty, when you are thinking about your people in poverty, you might feel very sad. You might want that this joy is also enjoyed by them as well. And then when I am in China, so to what extent they are being good to their citizens, and then how they are doing for their people. As much as I could, I write about them, and then I kind of like have these documents written and press written by my party, and then also Mumaka Media I posted as well. And right now I am an author. I am a writer introducing what is happening in China. And then when I left in 1976, I am going to destroy this military dictatorship. I was not successful until now, but then I like physically it is not possible to do this revolution as much as I could write, and then right now I got invited, and then in this discussion I could do the speak, and then I kind of like could do only things. So this is what I have been doing for this. Thank you very much for talking about it. And then in the next speaker, may I kindly invite Professor Dr. Tomye
Oke, silakan.
Mingalaba. Everyone, Mingalaba, are you in good health? Yes, I am. So can you also please introduce yourself to the people? My name is Tomie, and right now in the Carleton University, I am a professor teaching political science and the international relation in Carleton University. And right now I have been doing research on Myanmar for quite some time, after 1988. From the Thai-Burma border, I have arrived here in the United States as a refugee, and then I have completed BAMA, PhD, and postdoctorate, and then I have been a professor here. And after the coup in 2021, I have become have kind of like formed a group, and then there are families working in CDM, and then we are doing the support activity, humanitarian assistance to these people. And for the time being, that's all. Thank you very much. And let me invite another speaker, Sia Salai Isaac Khen. Mingalaba Sia. Mingalaba. Are you doing well? Yes, I am. And let me kind of like so I am Salai Isaac Khen, and then in the Chin government, in previously I was the municipality, hotel and tourism and electricity minister, and then for the time being, in the interim period, in the member of the Chin party, and then in the previous 6 months, I was the rotating chairperson, and then I and right now I have like ceased my duties, and then in the new I am a member, like a member of council as well. Thank you very much. And the speakers has introduced themselves now, and I would like to start the and then let me invite Dr. Lacho So. Yes, and then I would like to ask you questions. And then, like I had said earlier, very recently, Chinese foreign minister has visited Myanmar, met with the SAC, and then right now, Chinese government with regards to Myanmar issues, what is their opinion right now? And then are they going to stand for the um, the uh, the SAC? What are the changes from this side? Why the Chinese are doing this kind of thing? What is your opinion on that? Because before I talked about what Myanmar is doing towards Myanmar, the whole the Chinese policy to Myanmar, the whole world is like based on the changes under its foreign policies. What is the basic policies on each different country? That's why the changes are kind of like quick. Sometimes Chinese is like holding like one side is like this, one side is like that. But then while staying here in this country, what they are very resilient. They talked about it. They are very flexible, very resilient. So it is also a possibility. They are very pragmatic politics. So what is their strategy, foreign policy? So they want their country to be more, to modernize the country, to regain their place in order for China to be developed. They are doing it in different fronts. And then it is not just a one-off, but then to continually doing it. So this is their perspective. In order to do that, they will do it in different styles. So starting from Chairman Mao, and then like starting there. So they have like three worlds, like the like for example, the former colonized so they are going to help with us like with the revolution. And then in Deng Xiaoping, so peace, cooperation, like these kind of slogans. So they are working on their country development, and they are not part of the international community, and they are in the low profile. They have decided as such. In globalization here, in Xi Jinping, so from win-win situation, and that is kind of like bilateral. And then right now, they are doing the inclusive for everyone to be part of it. So sharing the future. After the Second World War, like the political situations of different countries and financial issues, at that time it works. But then, right now, for the developing countries, when the countries are developing quite a lot, so it is not fair, and then it is the reason in order to be a more justice systems, for example, de-dollarization. So, so uh, United States has kind of like control de-dollarization, this kind of this. So they have come up to this stage when countries are doing their businesses in their own currency. China understood that they're doing this, that they cannot do it alone. So they are kind of like organizing everyone to be part of it, during which they have proposed a lot of things. For the time being, right now they have Silk Belt. So the roads arrives to Eurasia, Europe, East Asia, Pakistan, Iran. So they have done it already. And then economically, they have formed so many organization step. So together with other 10 ASEAN countries and other Asia countries, in order to become a support, they have organized BRIC to. So BRIC, it was only 5 countries, and then in June, July, in the coming there is like 13 countries who wants to be part of it. When it comes to BRICS, uh, they are going to have the new development bank, and then in the future they are going to develop the BRIC currency. So China is right now, in order for their country to develop, in order for the development of the country to be sustainable, there are like financial regimes that are not fair. They will work together with other countries, and therefore they are part of the peace processes as well. Between Saudi Arabia and Iran, they kind of like have a mitigation, and then right now Ukraine and Russia in Goa also the other day with India, they will talk about the India and Pakistan as much as they could do, they are doing that. And then meeting with the Afghan Taliban foreign minister, they are going to help Afghanistan in order for the Afghanistan to be reconstructed as well. They are working on it as well. All these under this program, Burma, Myanmar is much more kind of like strategic, like almost like 20 miles neighboring countries sharing their borders for 2,000 miles. And then there are ethnic groups in this area. So if they are going through Yunnan and others, like you go to India, what they are constantly not concern is that if Malacca concern is like they want and see a port. So through Pakistan, they've got this, but then from Myanmar, they need to have it. CPC. These corridors, they are okay with. Right now, Jiaopiu deep sea port is like strategically very important for them. In order to have it, it is important that Myanmar is stable. So it is the reason why they are part of it. It is not just now. Since 2015, Chinese is there. So the civil war is there. Let's help. Let's help. We need to help. If you do not help, then Myanmar is going to be a failed state. If it become a failed state, it will also drag other country to be failed state as well. So 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 since 2015, Chen Gan is about to go. He met with Nolin Heisa before going to Myanmar. There's like discussions, and then uh, he tried to get everything before going to the country. So it is like what they are talking about, we need to understand. So you might have heard that they went to Russia, and then Liao went to Russia, and then because they went to say that like China is like doing this and doing that, and then so they do not have any kind of like this exit. So they kind of like accept it as then they are being given access. Even the SAC is like so for 60 years they have been doing this, and then we need to kind of like we have to we could not accept it. When Chingan was there, they released that like political prisoners, and then so I was released, but then there are a lot of people stay in the prison, and then please try for these people to be released. And then in front of they have to sign promissory notes as well. These kind of things. So our people are kind of like very sharp now, and then whichever country comes, we don't need to be afraid of. So Chinese policy is that they will try to have good relationship with whatever government in power, with their economic interest for their people, in order not to get hurt the interest of his people. They in order for their people, whichever government is in power, they will try to deal with them for their interest. That's all from my side. Thank you very much, Yama, for. So it is very interesting. And then the Chinese government is prioritizing pragmatic things, and then in order for them to be so they will try to do that, and then in order for them to be able to influence and to work with the developing countries. So you have discussed about this, and then thank you very much for that. And another thing is that they will have deal with whoever in power for their interests. They will be kind of like so thank you very much. And then so for these questions, so after this, political prisoner has been released after the Chinese minister's visit, and then the people are telling that this is so what is to what extent it can influence Myanmar revolution? Can you please kind of like share your opinion on this? Mingalaba, everyone. For Myanmar, or for Chinese strategy, and then if we look at it, so we can refer to the report starting from Mosito until now, and then right now, Dr. La Jozo has also talked about. If we looked at it, so in the institution, in the organization they are reading, we can also see this, and then in the Congress that they have talked about. So they talked so many things. So when uh, um, implementing their dreams, so they can kind of like construct with what they are having right now. So how is it? We need to understand first, and then when we looked at those history since 1949, after they have Communist Party controlling the state, and then the country is like the dictatorship. Since then until today, they are in one party. So they are just one party. So Dr. Lachoso has also talked about it with this one party. Can they do their implementation or not? So we need to think about it carefully. And then if we look at this kind of so the time right now when so everyone so each and individual human rights, the everything here. So in this world, like one party, that it is just their dream also. They cannot lead until today. This is according to the momentum here in this world. When to what extent we can refer to. So and so so this is starting from 6,000 years ago, like we have come to the nation state, and after this, and then industrialization has happened, and after that, starting from the nationalization has started. This world, the earth, how it has started. So private only own privately owned properties, right? These kind of things. And it has only been a few years. So in the Trudeau period, we call it Great Enclosure Movement. So this country owns this. To what extent this country is owned, like this this farmer owns this the property rights. So globalization has started as such. And so it's only like a few years ago. And then, so in 2000, WTO, World Trade Organizations, it is with the rule of law, rule-based order, and so they have come into this, and let's say like frankly opening country. And then in 1996, for the first time, in order for first they have to start, so they have to host the World Women's Conference, and in 1996, and so they have become to reopen. They are kind of like in this track. They, so Western countries, democratic countries, kind of like accepting them. So, so so what is the strength? So the Chinese people, those people who want to live freely, they have the technology. These people did this, and then so the Chinese Communist Party is right now. Jack Ma left, and then like got released. So Chinese, they want to do their implement the dream, but then they have to release from one party, and then they need to give the Chinese people onto the platform. They don't need to think that long Taiwan, Singapore, China, so they have a lot of strength to do this. So right now, Chinese Communist Party is holding this, and then in 2049, so Chinese Communist Party will be like 100 years old then. So, they are going to do the for show. They are preparing this, and then they are preparing to do this. And then Xi Jinping is going to, so in Xi Jinping himself, so so Xi Jinping and 7 people including. So if we looked at there, so so it is like the people in Myanmar dictators are doing as well. Right now, what Dr. Lajoso has talked about this, the implementation, the dream, it will never happen if they are doing this with one party leadership. And this is like the open, like the frankly open country. A transparent country will not let it happen. It is therefore, if you look at therefore, like what we have to understand is the Chinese, China has never, when China is good to Myanmar, if we go back, then we have to go back to it's like the war between China and Myanmar. And like we cannot. So it is in 1976. There are a lot of papers that has been kind of like translated. And then what if we have a look at it with regards to Chinese policy towards Myanmar? In Myanmar, they are going to only have like a headless government. They are afraid of Myanmar peoples who want democracy, and therefore, so they just want only people who just want like dogs in Myanmar country. They do not want anyone, just only only EAO. They will continue to work who is supporting them like dogs. Therefore, the Chinese Communist Party will never want Myanmar have peace. And if they want to encourage starting from 2050 to 2020, this democracy, like if you look at you don't need to go very far. You can just only look at these 5 years. What is Chinese policy to that? And therefore, Chinese government do not want democracy in Myanmar, and then they want to jeopardize what is going to happen in Myanmar. So you can also refer to the media and then other news outlets as well. I am not going to talk about it. And then lastly, what I have to conclude is that with regards to Myanmar and then neighboring countries, for example, Bangladesh, Rohingya, there are people who have to flee to Rohingya. It is around like 1 million. They have accepted these people and then working together with the United Nations as much as possible. They are hosting these people. India, as much as they could, they are doing it. China, Thailand, so if we do not have Thailand since 1988, like there will be a lot of people who is in trouble. They who cannot do any revolution. So if we looked at all the countries, Chinese is the most cunning country. So I am not saying that they are cunning, they are crooked. I am not saying it lightly. And then Chinese, so they have like Communist Party, they have done so many things. Myanmar Communist Party, they have divided into 5 groups. And then in 1989, they have invested themselves there and then make it into pieces. And after that, so they have those 5 groups, they support some of them, and then right now Tamado is only like they are kind of like guardian, and then like Magway Sagai, and then so they have invested in everywhere. And then Alaundo Katapa in Sagai National Park right now, even in the garden, even they have they are detonate mines, and then whether what they want, rare earth or uranium, they have get the permission to do. They have the they just want only the permission from the Myanmar military dictatorship. So these dictatorships are just for them like the watchdog. And so the policies, their strategy, they are just only just writing, reading the policies, and then just look at what they have done exactly. And I just want to talk about it, to look at their action rather than reading it, and that's all from my side. And so right now, and China is the one party, and so China has improved right now, has become speaker တယောက်ဖြစ်တဲ့ကျွန်တော်ဆရာ Salai Isaac Khen ကိုဆရာကိုဖိတ်ခေါ်ချင်ပါတယ်ဆရာကြီးမင်္ဂလာပါမင်္ဂလာပါဟုတ်ကဲ့ဆရာကြီးဆရာတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီတခြားချူတော့ပေါ့နော်ဆရာအခုဆိုလဲမကြသေးခင်ရပဲကျင်းပသွားတဲ့ဒီအာဆီယံပါဝင်မြန်မာနိုင်ငံအိန္ဒိယနိုင်ငံတွေပေါင်းစုပြီးတော့ပေါ့နော်ဒါမြန်မာအကြီးကိုဖြည့်ချဖို့ဆိုပြီးတော့ဒီ threat 1.5 dialogue ဆိုပြီးတော့ဆွေးနွေးပွဲတွေကိုထိုင်းမှာလည်းလုပ်သွားတယ်မကြသေးခင်ကလည်းအိန္ဒိယမှာလုပ်သွားခဲ့တာတွေ့တယ်ပေါ့နော်အဲ့တော့ဒီကျွန်တော်တို့ threat 1.5 dialogue ဆိုတာတော့ကျွန်တော်စိမ့်နေပေါ့နော်အဲ့တော့ဒီ threat 1.5 dialogue ဆိုတာကဘယ်လိုမျိုးဆိုလိုတာလဲဆရာဒါနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ပြည်သူတွေဘယ်လို update အနေထားတွေကိုဆရာရှင်းပြပေးနိုင်မလဲပြီးတော့ဒီလိုနိုင်ငံတွေဒီအာဆီယံနဲ့နောက်နိုင်ငံတွေနဲ့ဒီအာဆီယံနိုင်ငံတွေနဲ့ကျွန်တော်အိန္ဒိယရှင်းနိုင်ငံတွေဒီအနောက်နိုင်ငံတွေနဲ့ကွဲပြားတဲ့လမ်းကြောင်းတစ်ခုကိုပေါ်ဆောင်လာတာကဘာကြောင့်လဲလို့ဆရာသုံးသပ်ပေးနိုင်မလဲပေါ့နော်ဒါနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးဆရာဆွေးနွေးပြပါအောင်ဆရာဟုတ်ကဲ့ကျေးဇူးများတင်ပါတယ်ဒီညဒီပြည်သူ့ပန်းနဲ့စီစီမှာလည်းပေါင်းခွင့်ရတာကျေးဇူးများတင်ပါတယ်အခုကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီ track 1.5နဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ပြောရမယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော်တော်များများဟိုပေါ့နော်ပါတယ်ပေါ့နော်ဆိုတော့သူက track လေးတွေပြောပြတယ် 1.5 ပဲပါဆိုတော့1ကပါတယ်2ကပါတယ်ဆိုရရှိတယ်ပေါ့ဆိုတော့ဒီဇုံကတော့ track 1.5ဆိုတဲ့အသုံးလုံးကတော့များသောအားဖြင့်ကျွန်တော် peace process မှာငြိမ်းချမ်းရေးဆွေးနွေးတဲ့လုပ်ငန်းစဉ်တွေအထူးသဖြင့်ပဋိပက္ခတွေအသွင်ပြောင်းအောင်ဆောင်ရွက်တဲ့တိုင်ကိုဖြည့်ရှင်းတဲ့အခါမှာသုံးတဲ့
when you're talking about the transition, about the making changes. So in this peace process dialogues, we often use the expression track 1, track 2, and the track 3. If you look at it like a triangle, the top of the triangle will be track 1, and at the bottom of the triangle will be track 3, and then in the middle you have the track 2. In other words, to make the people understand, for those who don't understand about the politics, is that that if you have some of you might be also be familiar with the topic as well, that those who work at the top level will be the track 1. If you're working at that the state level, the subnational level, that will be track 2. And then those decision maker, the community level or the grassroots level, will be track 3. And then those at the top level who make the top decision will track 1. So track 1.5 is close to the track 1, but they are not also from the track 2. So they are not a government, but they have access to the government actors. And that's how we described track 1.5. So they are more than a civil society organization, but they are not fully government institutions. So to give you the closest example, like during the NCA process, at the time that there were a lot of leaders who have, that entered the, they say, government, there were some of the ministers who were taking the lead as well. And that some of them, there are also those who are leading these were participating in the this SCA process, and that sometimes they may be ministers, sometimes they are not minister, but they have regular access to the president as well as to important institutions, and these are the people what we can be called as track 1.5. So we have seen track 1.5 is becoming quite trendy in Myanmar in the past a month or and a half. I think the meeting started back in Thailand on the 13th of March in Bangkok, that the Thailand convened a track 1.5 meeting, and that was the first time they start using about it in this context as well. It was a meeting convened by Thailand, and that 5 neighboring countries attended: China, Laos, Bangladesh, India, and Thailand. So 5 neighboring countries, and Cambodia and Vietnam, Japan participated in that meeting. From out of ASEAN, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Singapore have opposed the process, and they have opposed the process because ASEAN already has an existing process, and that it also is that ASEAN 5-point consensus also is there. So despite the presence of the ASEAN process, and that the Thailand create another new process, it says this is unnecessary, and that was the objection by the ASEAN the 4 members, 4 maritime states, the ASEAN had opposed it. But that meeting took place anyway, and when the meeting took place, that SEC foreign minister attended I'm sure he attended the meeting. So that was the first track 1.5 meeting. The second meeting is on the 5th of April. That was in India. In that second track 1.5 meeting, so the same 5 neighboring countries attended the country, as well as on the Cambodia. Japan did not attend that meeting. Indonesia, that as ASEAN chair, that as a capacity, they attend as observer to that meeting. So I'm not so sure. I'm not sure if Vietnam attended the meeting or not. We haven't heard from Vietnam. So that was the track 1. That was about the track 1.5, the meeting. Why they do these meetings? So if you ask if these meetings are hosted by the respective government, no, it was led by the Indian Council of that World Affairs. It was a think tank. It was a think tank in India which convened that meeting. So it was not hosted by the Indian government. That ICWA is a think tank. It is a think tank, but it also is very that they also work closely with the Indian Minister for External Affairs. So like, for example, like MISIS, MISIS, for example, like they work closely with the mover as well. So that it is a think tank close to the Indian Ministry of External Affairs. So in that April meeting, so Indian media, 4 or 5 Indian media mentioned a report about it, and also is also from that as well. And that so in a way there was quite a bit of coverage in the Indian as well as on the Thai media. In the reportings of the new media, said that they discuss 4 thematic areas. First thematic area is the reduction of they talk about reduction of violence inside the country. So that means that they talk about this of the fighting in Myanmar to cease there for the cessation as well. Second is about the transnational crimes. They talk about second area is about the crimes that are committed across the boundary along Myanmar. And third topic is national reconciliation. And the last topic is that about the delivery of humanitarian aids. So how the humanitarian assistance can be delivered. So these were 4 topics that have been discussed in that meeting. That's what we learned from the reporting, from the news report. Regarding humanitarian assistance, there is also a AHA center from the ASEAN ASEAN is already implementing. So they say that they will continue to support the work of the AHA center and to support it so that there can be faster delivery of humanitarian assistance. That was the discussion point on that. But one one special about this track 1.5 dialogue is that they cannot make a decision. They are there to talk about their consultation. It's more like a perspective as well. The countries that participate in the track 1.5, they do not represent the respective countries, but they are also somehow interconnected to the respective government. So it's more of a what they agree is like more of it's more like a compilation of perspectives on various topics. But these positions, in other words, these oppositions that this position will reach the decision makers in respective countries, and that the way they make the dialogue is as if they are the think tanks, and then these decisions, the decisions will be made by the track one. So these perspectives will be shared with the track one or the decision maker. As to the discussion on the reconciliation, that they think that there should be talks between the SAC and the NUG, as well as SAC and the EROs. They said there should be they should push for that to happen, that to have dialogue when it happen. And then to the third topic on the transnational crimes, that what they have discussed is that within the region, it is important to establish a coordinated mechanism to address transnational crimes. Particularly after the coup of 2021, drug trafficking has increased, and that along the Indo-Burma corridor, it has spreaded a lot. In the past 5 years, in the last term of the NLD government, that there have been a great deal of control over the drug trade around the Indo-Burma corridor. But however, since the coup of 2021 in 2021 and 22, we have seen increase in terms of drug trade along that Indo-Burma corridor. So we are seeing a major increase indeed as well. That so that there are concerns about the drug trafficking, but actually the problem is not just about drug trafficking. The problem is with the rule of law, because there is the police who is in charge of the law and order, and also those who provide the security, because of this transnational increase in transnational crime as various forms of crimes is because of the collapse of the rule of law and that of the police as a law enforcement entity as well. So that in the Dr. also has mentioned in her point is that Myanmar is heading towards a failed state is an important topic with the collapse of the rule of law. That's why in the track 1.5 they discuss about the transnational crime as an important topic. Lastly, they talk about reduction of violence. That reduction of violence, of course, have different perspectives. That's what we have heard. Especially the military or the military hunter also have that there are about 3 think tanks from the military. So these think tanks and the narratives they deliver might reach an extent, because that track 1.5 did not have a representation neither from the NUG, neither from the ERO. So that dialogue was in a way one-sided as well. In the track 1.5, in the track 1.5 in Delhi, so in a way it's important consolidation of perspectives. There will be a third meeting, the track 1.5 meeting, and the third meeting will be held in Laos, and that's what has been reported in the news. This is the update I can share about the track 1.5 meetings that took place in Bangkok and New Delhi. So to respond to your last question, and why that track 1.5 as a dialogue process has started, although there is a existing UN process, and why is this happening? If you ask this question, then since Thai organized the first meeting, that there was a lot when the Thai meeting will talk about it. There were also Thai media. The way Thai media described is that, well, Thailand is quite frustrated with the ASEAN process. That's why they have started for it as well. So in simple words, they're saying the ASEAN process, they are not they are that in a way that there you have the ASEAN 5-point consensus and then ASEAN 15 recommendation. They think it's not, they think that that's not working, and that's why the neighboring countries have stepped up, especially in the countries which are directly affected by the crisis in Myanmar. The 5 neighboring countries have rallied together, like India and Thailand. They also are greatly impacted by what's happening inside Myanmar. So that's why they have sponsored and they have convened such meetings. That's a theory for it. Another theory that and also is about the ASEAN centrality. So far the approach of ASEAN centrality is not working, and then ASEAN and the China not being a member of the ASEAN does not have the kind of influences. That also means that with the track 1.5, China wants to yield its influence, and that it cannot do that in China. So that's why that in that that in addition to what ASEAN is doing, and they are also have started this what I call the track 1.5. So in other words, track 1.5 is in that the track 1.5 meeting in Bangkok and Delhi, as well as on that one thing for sure is that it's not inclusive because you don't have the representation from the NUG. We don't have representation from the revolutionary actors, and that nor from the revolution organization. So these meetings are quite one-sided, and that means that when it is a meeting is one-sided, then its approach will not be comprehensive. That in the daily meeting as well, and that some of the countries also raised the point the NUG should be invited to do this track 1.5 rather than the NUG. That maybe think tanks from the NUG, think tanks that are supporting the NUG should also be invited to the meeting as well. That point was made by the countries, but in the meeting, however, I don't think that we don't know. We still have to wait and see whether think that the support the people of Myanmar will be invited to the next part of the track 1.5 meeting. Thank you, Second, for the discussion. That here you talk about that the track 1.5 is neither CSO, it's more than the CSO, but not governmental institutions, and that the idea is to they have influence over the political influence, and that's the track 1.5 meeting. Thank you, and then I would also like to thank the people who are joining us in today's talk show as well. So we have finished the first part where we have listened to our speakers. Our speakers will also have shared their opinion. So please feel free to write your comments in the chat box as well as on the on our streaming Facebook pages as well. If you would like to share your comments or participate in the discussion, we'll be inviting you at the end of the talk show. So please feel free to use the link to join us as well, and don't forget to raise your hand. So we'd like to go to the second round of the dialogue. That I would like to start off with the Siama Lajozo as well. So you have mentioned that the China has made progress to an extent, and that China also is trying to build its influence around the world as well. And also you are also saying that that China always look at their interests, also about protecting their assets and interests, in particular in Chinese engagement with different activities as well, but then again, the point I would like to raise is that if the country is under the Myanmar military, it will be very hard to imagine stability in Myanmar, and the way the military has been strongly opposed by the military. So as long as the military is in power, there will be stability in Myanmar, and that will also have an impact on the Chinese interests as well. So the Chinese interests will also not be able to save and secure, because China needs stability so that they can contribute contribute to be in us to contribute to its assessments and carrying out its projects as well. So to ensure stability in Myanmar, we need to have a government that is supported by the people of Myanmar. In other words, that so long as there is military dictatorship in Myanmar, that so long as there is a the region in Myanmar, that there won't be political stability. I'm sure that China also understands the point. Another point I would like to make is that there is a lot of influence from China over Myanmar. So that my question to you is that NUG and the other revolution actors, what can they do that to have a good relationship with China? Because it is important to have good relations with China. In that case, then what should NUG and revolutionary forces do to build good relations with China? What kind of approaches are needed? And that and another question is that Myanmar political Myanmar that I think it is also important for China to understand that that it is important to remove the military dictators to ensure stability in Myanmar, so that the revolutionary forces are also going strong. That what do you think that China will be still holding the opinion? Well, recently I've been reading and watching the interviews of the NUG cabinet members, as well as on the CDMers, those CDM soldiers. I've been listening to what they have been saying, and also be listening to what the PDF were actually fighting on the ground. I've been listening to a lot of such interviews. I'm trying to study them as comprehensively as possible. What I realized is there are 2 points. Firstly, that in their perspectives, in their position, there seem to be 2, but in pertaining to China, that either you're supporting the revolution in Myanmar or whatever it is, that the participation from the international community, they always participate on the basis of their own national interests in Myanmar, because although the countries they're supporting the revolution in Myanmar, or they oppose the revolution in Myanmar based on their national interests, and that's they always talk about their international interests when it comes to Myanmar. Secondly, is that Myanmar neighboring country, that Myanmar and the relation, it is that the point that Myanmar needs to have good. A lot of people also say that Myanmar needs to have a good relation with China as well. That people may hold different perspective or different opinions, but I think that we all have one. Although we may have different perspective, but we all have one common point, like the moderator has said. Well, so long as there is military dictatorship in Myanmar, Myanmar will not see prosperity. Myanmar will not see development, and that it is important to end the military dictatorship, and that all of the people are committed to this to end the military dictatorship, and that's the common point. And if based on that common point, I think we need to do what we should do. That to build relationship with China, good relation China. It is important to have a clear perspective about China. China is working for its interests, and it is important we have a clear vision that China is doing whatever it is, whatever they do is for their own national interest as well. If you look at their strategy, then we need to understand from their strategies what kind of objectives we can get. For example, like China is pushing hard for the Silk Road, the OBOR, right? And that what they cannot do is because why is the problem? Because along this Chinese Silk Road connectivity, we have a can continue building the Silk Road. Then it is important to end this conflict if possible, so that China can bring their own national interest into fruition. That in doing so, whatever problem is there are, I think it is important to see it from both positive and negative perspective. That there is always both sides both sides of a coin. The bad thing is they don't do that as well, and that it is important for that if the military concedes concede or give concessions, then they could be more, have a better. But if we think that we also need to make a very clear message and standpoint that we cannot let it. That's the red line for us. It is important to show that the people of Myanmar do not want the military system, that military dictatorship, and we need to communicate with the China. I said that we have to inform them that we are fighting this war to end military dictatorship, that we need to make it very clear to China so that they will understand that as well. Myint also said, Myint even himself had to admit that he didn't think that there will be this level of public resistance. We need to build it up. We need to maintain that momentum. We also need to make China understand that very clearly. I said that's a red line as well. China is a superpower country. It's a neighboring country too. So we cannot treat it, we have to show its respect. If you don't want to say that, if you say deep respect, then at least show a modicum of due respect as a neighboring country as well. That in doing so, that there are also, I'm sure there are also important lives as well, and that it is important we need to engage in such a way to respect that as well. That okay, China may be a country of that monopoly. There are things that China will not let it happen in their country, but that will be decided by its people. What kind of system in China that have in China will be decided by the people. As what I'm also saying is that the books that I read, published officially by the China, and I live in China, so I listen to what they're saying. I read what they're saying. As a person who lives in China, I know what they're talking about. For example, like a Xinjiang issue, that what is happening, human rights violation in Xinjiang. But on the 5th of I think on the holiday of May, and the millions of people go to Xinjiang for holidays. They talk about human rights violations, but that is I think for me is that I try to understand as much as possible. That's just what I'm reading, is that I'm reading what has been officially published in China. I can also gauge what is happening as well. Like I also that what somebody has been pointed out. I also read about it as well. Like Xi Jinping said that Xi Jinping has said that they are providing whole process democracy to the people, and we are not giving liberal democracy, but this is socialist democracy that we are giving to the people as well. And that it is important for the people to follow their laws, as well as in terms of implementation. It is important and that it is also important to create that we are trying to create a conducive environment. That it's not a full democracy, but they are trying to create democracy as much as possible. They said it's not liberal democracy yet, yes, but a country with 1.4 billion, how to hold this country peaceful is important. They need to have a democracy as well, and that it is important to recognize that as well. Yes, they have to be. China has to adopt capitalism, and to an extent to be able to do that as well, and that and through the globalization of they have to to dominate the capitalization to be able to get the interest, and they use the capitalism, but they distribute their benefits to the people through the socialism. That's why the Chinese government enjoyed the support of the people as well. Let's leave it aside. We need to recognize that to an extent. Only that we can make good relations with China, because that if our country that our country is a country of tragedy, because we are very rich in natural resources, but we are deep in poverty, and that I think that there is also the country is divided, people are divided, and that it is important for those who do not like the military dictatorship. I think it is important to engage with us. It is important to form an alliance to be able to fight for that as well. That only when we can, by that, in terms of policy, in terms of belief, in terms of faith or religion, despite the diversity, that if we all together look beyond the diversity to fight against the common enemy, the military, if we sort of like rally together with a unified voice in a synchronized manner, if we if we fight, that if we continue to fight together, only then China will see that, well, then the military is not the military that can they were started to see that military cannot guarantee stability, and not only China, that the others also. India is the same. India also worries about it as well. During the, it is that if that Myanmar, if we can remove the military from if we can set aside the differences and focus and prioritize on the needs of the people and form this alliance, revolutionary alliance, and do what we need to do, and that's the way forward that we should be doing. Only then that then those who can join the CDM can join, those who can join the AMRA, those who can be the, a guerrilla fighter can be the guerrilla fighter. We need to engage in different ways so that we can, if we can form this such a solidary unity, then we will garner respect from China. We'll also get respect from the other as well. But let's think about it, that let's say Indonesia foreign minister said that, so now they have to stay there how many times she had met with the NUG, and that also, and that is in a way is a recognition of as well, and that's quite a bit of a harsh blow towards the military. That like Sia explained about the track 1.5. Now there are the think tanks are asking for the NUG think tanks to be part of that. That could be track 1.5 could become a platform for the people of Myanmar as well, and that it could become there could be more platforms for us to engage and to fight with the military in this way. I think it is important for all of us to, that for peace and stability in Myanmar. I think it will be done this way, through this the kind of rally and a consolidation and the fighting together, that will be able to change the mind of the countries, including China. Military will do a very something shallow. They will be superficial. They will make efforts, but I think it is important for us to set aside the differences and try to, bring solidarity among each other. Then our revolution will be sustained, and that it will gain momentum, and that other countries will also respect our movement. That's all I would like to say. Thank you. Thank you, Siama, for sharing. And that so that China is also, of course, thinking about its own interests, and that so therefore it is important for that we need to be able to recognize Chinese interests, and also to make sure China understands that only when we can remove the military regime or dictatorship in Myanmar, that there will be stability as well. That I think it is so China as a neighboring country has influence for Myanmar, and that it is important to have good relations in Myanmar, but international communities, international countries, including China, always have focused on their own national interests in engagement with Myanmar. So I think it is important for us to engage with that with the recognition of it. India being a superpower, is also be a neighboring country. It is also important to show that respect and also the recognition towards China in our engagement. It is as well that and as for our revolutionary forces as well, I think it is also important to revolutionary forces need to consolidate their form that revolutionary alliance to be able to that it is also important to be able to build this unity and strength, so that we can bring that respect from the neighboring countries, including China as well. So we also like to remind that our participants, if you want to ask questions, feel free to use the Q&A or in the chat box, or write your questions or comments in the chat box as well, or on the Facebook page. So now I would like to invite another speaker. Okay, so I would like to invite Sia Tomian once again, and that And that so that because Spring Revolution also is they're gaining strength as well, and that different countries have different position when it comes to the Spring Revolution as well, and sometimes we cannot choose our neighbors. So that among our neighboring countries, how can we build good relationship? And and in addition that, and also that from the how important it is to build for us to build good relations with our neighboring countries, especially and not only at the top level but also at the people to people level. That what do you think that should we do? That how important is the relationship building? One thing you need to understand basically is that the revolution that people are wanting, that the inclusive federal democracy that people aspire to. For that, it is important to do. We need to understand very clearly that none of the neighboring countries will bring inclusive federal democracy. It will not be implemented by the international community. It is only the people of Myanmar that the activities that you are doing that will contribute to the establishment of federal democracy. International community or the international analysts, they will react according to what is happening in the country. So that's the baseline you need to understand. What I'm saying is that it is important that all the democratic actors, all the revolution actors will need to be very active and very you have to be proactive. Only then international community will follow a little. International community will never win our revolution, and you have to win your own revolution, and that's the baseline for us. Secondly, that when we look at the approach of the international community, what we need to understand is that there is a G2G, government to government or diplomat to diplomat engagement or kind of diplomacy, like for example, like international laws or that a communication with the international community. That's how it goes. If it through there, and then when we say track one is when you have the political leaders and discuss. That's the track one. That's the track one is that there's something that they have it ongoing as well, and that so that that means that they support and accompany the international in the international arena. For example, like Ambassador John Motom being able to continue to represent the people of Myanmar in New York is one thing, and also is that international leaders are always meeting NUG leader. That is in a way that's not new, and that's always been there as well, and that's always been despite the efforts that they also have a lot of support as well, and that so that there is there is support from the international community. International community has been accompanying according to what they can as well, and that so that so that's why that the countries are supporting and they're supporting the movement. That's why many of our civilians could stay in Thailand. Many of them are in China as well, and that in I think in the January 11th of 2020, the Chinese president want to Myanmar. That was 2020 is when Myanmar is rallying for the election, and that there has been efforts to amend the 2008 constitution, and that it was during that time that the Chinese president went to Myanmar. At that time, the president Wang Yi, at the time, foreign minister Wang Yi also had went numerous times as well, and that during that campaign, that I think that and also that there has been a lot of efforts as well, and that it was there was a president came, and then Wang Yi also went in Myanmar. So in that China in that what I'm saying is that China did it and also that China, and then also went there into the 2020 January that shows that there's in a way China has greenlighted this coup, because they were in January. In a way, they were sort of like giving their blessings for that. They were engaging with the EROS for all the events. If you look at the timeline of the events, if you try to connect the analyze the issue, then in a way China has China is that China in a way is part of the orchestration for the coup to happen, because he won there in January. That in a way he gave his blessings or the green light for it as well, and that the fact that that means a very clear what the Chinese position will be towards Myanmar, and that there is, if you look, there are also a lot of campaigns in the Spring Revolution for example, like there are campaigns, there are a lot of campaigns say do not to support the military dictators, not to stop the arms, to stop the sale of arms to the military, to get the revenue streams to the military, and there has been a lot of organization pushing hard for it as well. Energy also raising that point as well. So international communities have been saying that to stop Myanmar and his military and to cut its pillars. The pillars, as like the energy adding president have declared that defensive civil war. Since energy declared the first civil war, they also had talked about it is important to destroy the pillars of the military. Energy had the strong policy to destroy the pillars that support the military as an institution. To do that for China, that right now Myanmar's military, that China has been supporting Myanmar, China is supporting the Myanmar's military. They also support the military dictatorship. They are in a way, China is a country, one of the neighboring countries, which is all about bringing about military dictatorship in Myanmar once again. And that, if you look at it, China is a major pillar to the military and the prolong for their hold on power. China plays an important role. China is an important pillar to the military. In addition to that, they are also working as a pillar to the military. They also are engaged with the North 7 EROs in the northern part of Myanmar, northeastern part of Myanmar. We need to look at it, the big picture of Chinese engagement. Chinese is supporting not only the Malay military, they are also supporting some of the EROs as well, and that's something we need to take into consideration if we want to do that. And this, because they are doing that, because these are also part of the incentive structure as well, and so that's what they're doing. They have to. So if you say, then there's a question: is China guilty of guilty as well? But if you look at the analysis, then you cannot say the guilty or not, because China is working for their own interest. China is doing for its own goods, and then from that, China will also think about it. That China will need, they want they want to have a good leadership. They want those who can support it as well, and that what they want to make sure is that they want leaders which can think about all that is important for them as well, and they don't want top leaders who think about the national interest, about the people, and they have this intelligence structure. So what they would like, people who they can control, who they can, like the puppet master. They want bad leaders, or that those who they can control it as well. I think we can even say in one single sentence, and that military dictatorship in Myanmar, the fact that China needs to stop all its support to the SAC, which is prolonging the military dictatorship in Myanmar. If we continue to support it, then there could be implications on your assets and interests. And that single sentence will say about it. That I think we need to say the same thing that we have been doing in the Western countries. We've been calling for sanctions against Mogi, and then we're talking about sanctioning against petroleum companies in Myanmar. And in the same way, we are putting US to put sanctions on Mogi. We also need to put pressure on China. If we're just studying about what we are doing and China is doing this or doing that, then China, for the sake of its national interest, will continue to do that. I think it is important. We need to have there are also some campaigns against Thailand, but we have very little campaign against China, because China in a way has infiltrated some of the EROs, and they are pushing them. Even the media, some of the media media have been controlled or they're manipulated by China, because China have the funds, China have the interest, China can do that as well. It is important to study this carefully, and it is important for the revolution leader to understand how China is playing this way. Then we need to have a clear way to do. I'm not talking about say expecting our respect or not. China should be treated as the same other countries. We need to be open, we need to be direct, we need to give the message very clearly as well. It's China who has to choose the decision, to make the decision that, it's that China must decide that the way that China is making the others decide, it's not new. They've been doing it for a long time as well. That because China that that they are doing, they infiltrate a way to they can in a way that they can undermine the military as an institution, they can undermine the ERO as the ethnic revolution organization, they can even undermine the revolution as a revolution organization. So that I think it is China that all these efforts in hedging, that all the efforts in building this internal structure is very clear. They don't want Myanmar to have democracy, they don't want Myanmar to have the independence for the human rights in Myanmar. So it is important for NUG leadership and political leadership to understand that, and then make our message very clear to China. What China they fear the most is that the people-centered democracy in peaceful Myanmar. They don't want that, because they don't want it to be presented to happen in China too. In 1988, after the democratic uprising in Myanmar in 89 in Tiananmen Square, that if you will remember, there was a democratic movement, because as a neighboring countries, there are always implications. If something happened in Myanmar, that will have impact on it as well. Hong Kong, you see the student movement in Hong Kong, you have the Myanmar Spring Revolution and the Hong Kong Spring, and all this, the COVID pandemic as well, like 2021. That is also, I think also China see this, and China the understanding, and that they even did that after COVID there were even some some movement as well, and all these are for China important, because that they need to crack down on that on the people asking for it, like, so on the movement that all the Silk Road or the Belt and Road is there, because China wants to play that monopoly, so that for the China will be able to have absolute control by the party, Communist Party as well, and because they don't if China genuinely encourage, they are not, because what the China is doing is not because they encourage that as well. If China really wants to, they can let the people have as well, and that if they let China to be able to do that, and that they can do this as well, and that what they can do is that that China China people are very good at business, and the China really wants its people to be successful in every way. They can allow people to run their business already if they don't. They want to control everything, because Chinese people have been known for their entrepreneurship. You look at in the that all the movements, like in a country like Taiwan, and that although the Taiwan is not recognized as a nation across the world, but Taiwan is essential to economy because of the entrepreneurship of the Chinese people. It is important to understand. It is important to distinguish our relations and engagement with the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese people, because the freedom of the Chinese people fight for democracy, human rights. Our people fight for democracy, human rights. It is important to engage them, to see them. This is interconnected as well. That if we can, and then it is important to do this, that to build the momentum, to build that, to show the connection between the people of China and people of Myanmar, and that all of us deserve democracy and human rights, and that it is important to do that as well. China will also make a decision, make a clear stand as well. They cannot hatch their bets anymore, and that there are areas like Khen, there are areas like Shan, where China have always had their areas which are always in constant engagement with China, so we cannot do whatever when this area. That's true, but then again, it is also important not to look at the Chinese market. If we look at the international market, like Ministry of the International, we have I think Ministry of International Cooperation or Ministry of Commerce and NUG should be able to find other markets to this. We should not be relying only on Chinese market for that Kachin and Shan, because if we do that, if we look for foreign markets, then China will be scared. If we let's say that, okay, we're not going to sell our jade to China, and if we have like a China, like Khen has a very good wooden products. If we reach out to like a Swedish company like IKEA, and then think about the furniture, the production, instead of going to China, then if we have a strong economic policy giving access to the international markets apart from China, that will threaten China. Then if we start preparing such policy, we need to look beyond China. We need to look at international markets for our products, our minerals, and then China will be in a way will be greatly destabilized by it, and that will show them where they should stand in terms of Myanmar revolution. If we do that, then we'll be able to go beyond the challenges in Myanmar, and that China will also start to realize that, okay, this is not the right way to do, because now we are not guiding China this way they should follow, but we are following their road as well. We are following their instruction. That means that we are not doing as good as they are. That could mean that either we are not as good as China is, or either we are scared of China. So my point is that it is important for the revolutionary leader to have the courage to step up and to see things as they are. Then if we are, if we are going to act like dogs put in a, we are going to be like animals kept in a yard, and we'll never go beyond the yard, then we'll never get freedom. We'll never be able to grow our muscles or train ourselves. So then democracy and freedom for the people of Myanmar, or the democratic federal union that we all want, will not happen. So we need to think pragmatic. We need to remain grounded. It is ended either whether the NUG leadership or with the support of the NUG, this is something going to do, because NUG is NUG has a legitimacy coming from the 2020 election, and before the NUG, and between 2015 to 2020, NLD government also have done what NLD government has done. It is important to think about what was the NLD policy towards China. We think about that, that the last term of the NLD 2015 to 2020 was unprecedented, and that they were able to do things against the Chinese project. That's why Generation Z, the Gen Z they after a decade under the military dictatorship, they spent 5 years under the democratic government. It wasn't a perfect democracy, but however, the fact that they have spent 5 years under the democracy, maybe Gen Z, they are 20 years old, they have spent 10 years under the military, 10 years under the democracy. So they know what is important, they know what they can do, and that they see that as a reality. Because if we want Myanmar as a fully democratic nation, Myanmar will be able to go beyond any of the countries in South Asia as well. Our people have courage, our people have the education, we also have the ability to think critically as well, and that like the federal win that the military, the Myanmar military is a world 35 biggest military in the world, and that the PD have been able to threaten with the drones, the Gen Z and the guerrilla fighters, and the NUG and the MOD. If you look at all these abilities and capacities, that is incredible. That it also is in a way threatening China, because it is as well. Because if Myanmar have an open democratic country, they cannot abuse Myanmar. They cannot use Myanmar for their interest. Because what are they doing Myanmar for? What are they using Myanmar for? They are using Myanmar as if a shortcut for them to have access to the Indian Ocean, because they need an outlet to the ocean. They're using Myanmar as a shortcut, a pathway for things to get. So they cannot do that anymore if there is a military, no longer military government in Myanmar. That on the centenary anniversary of Myanmar, China have always had consolidated its power to remain itself as a monopoly as well. That China Communist Party, they want to use this the way our Generation Z uses it. They want to play this. They want to play this China. They are preparing China to remain under the centralized control of the Chinese Communist Party as well. So, and they will do that. They will make sure that nobody, no democracy. They will continue to with the dictatorial the system as well. And the such the dictatorship countries will never encourage or support any democracy as well. And the dictators also want the dictatorship in Myanmar. They will do whatever they can to have their dictatorships in their neighboring countries too. So this kind of authoritarian countries will only want authoritarian countries around them as well. And we need to realize that. And then if we realize that, then we'll see what can be done. Thank you, Sia, for their perspective, and that and also the analysis in your discussion wise. It has been I have noted that it is important for it is important also for the neighboring countries, including China, to change, and that it is also important that it is important. We need to convey a very clear message for them to have a clear understanding, so that they will stand with the people of Myanmar and the revolutionary forces as well, and that in the Spring Revolution, I think it is also important that people, where we need to win our revolution ourselves, and that we need to rely ourselves as well.
မှာဖြစ်တယ်ဗောနော်ဒါတွေကိုလည်းဒါဟိုဒါဆရာဆွေးနွေးသွားတယ်ဗောနော်ဒါတရုတ်တို့ဘာလို့ဆိုတာတရုတ်နိုင်ငံပါဘူးနော်နိုင်ငံတကာတော့
So China, including the international community, they were only based on like their interest, and then from our side, we need to have brilliant leaders, and then they will not guarantee, and then their interest, and then we need to give the correct information to them. And therefore, thank you very much for the analysis here. And then right now, we would like to invite those who are listening to this conversation and discussions. If you have anything to talk about it, and then after the discussions, then you can raise your hands and ask questions. And then you can also give us comments here and then ask questions as well. And before I invite another speaker, let me read out a comment with regards to China. So cannot use we need to use the diplomacy here. And then China is a huge country, and then we might have to smile, but then on the ground, so who can guarantee the interest of China? We need to make it gone, because that's the reason why. Who can for China to understand, who can protect their businesses, and therefore we need to use kind of smile and then bang democracy. So we would like to invite another Salai Khen. Yes, and then right now in Myanmar Revolution, and then there has been impact on other countries as well, and India on the border. We have kind of issues on the border. We have displaced people on the ground, and these kind of things. What happened in India because of those displaced people from Myanmar, and then there has been some of the human rights abuses as well. So when it comes to the border security, the concerns of our neighboring countries, there are things like that, including NUG and revolutionary forces. How can we best respond to this? And then can you please also extend your opinion on that? Thank you very much for your questions. And so our moderator has kind of talked about it, and then but the first one is that Manipur, what is happening in the Manipur, and then the tensions there, and then Myanmar refugees, one thing, and then secondly, the border security, one thing, and then thirdly, with regards to everything like this, the revolutionary forces, what they should be doing, this kind of things. This is my question, what I understand. With the time allotted, if I have to answer to this right now, in India, in Manipur state, which is close to Myanmar Sagai region, in Manipur, there has been some of the tensions, and then on the 3rd of May evening in Pha town, around 1 hour, so it's called Lapka as well. Lapka, many people know Jurjatpu, and then in Jurjatpu, there has been some of the riot there, and then Mikkei and between Mikkei and Kuki ethnic cities, and then there has been issues and this issue is not in Georgiabu, but then to Infa as well, and so it has gone while to Manipur, the whole Manipur state, but then so all the Naga ethnicities, we understand that there has not been there, and then in Mike and between Mike and Kuki, we have heard like that, but then this issue is quite deep, and so it is we could not entirely say that between Mike and Kuki ethnic people, and then the issue is quite sensitive, and therefore, so it has been 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up to now, and then within 2 or 3 days, the situation has been quite tense, and therefore, India, Manipur state, so they were using their constitution. Um, 355, and then with this regards, they have so the federal government is kind of like handling in according to the section 355, if a state either has kind of like encounter instability within the country or from the outside of the country, then the federal government would enable itself in order to handle the situation. And therefore, from 4th of May, Manipur State administration was handled by the federal state government. So for right now, the news that we are reading, at least 53 people have been killed in this incident, and then many people were kind of like injured as well. Christian churches, at least 60, 70 were being destroyed, and then Hindu the religious buildings were also destroyed. More than 100 were destroyed, around like 180. So we do not have the exact numbers of the damages. And right now, Manipur State has lost the internet connectivity, and then as well as telephone connectivity. And therefore, we do not know exactly what is going on. Right now, we have so far heard that religious buildings were being destroyed as well so far. So Christian churches as well as Hindu temple were being destroyed. So this is the information that we have known. The situation has been tense and in a very difficult situation, and many people have fled their um, home to the neighboring Nagalaya places, and then from Mizoram, for Mizoram state, Mizoram minister, Mizoram Mizoram state has sent them the relief flight and then tried to evacuate them. Some of them were evacuated to Nagarim. So this is what we have heard. The situation has been very tense and very difficult right now. We do understand that, and then we are praying and for them, and then the hate speech rather than so we were we would like to encourage about the so we do understand as well, and so we are also praying for them, and then many people were so in order to heal it for many years, in order to heal the situation, they will have to kind of like do a lot of things. So we have heard a lot of encouragement as well into Jarbu, and then so Cookie women's kind of like so in the Manipur University maintain maintain students, protect the cookie students. So these communities are, in order for them to be in one community, to love one each other, we need to pray, and then we will have to take a lot of time. So this is in the Malibu, what like Basiji has caused a lot of issues, almost like 200 people, and then many people where has been kind of like suffer a lot as well, and well, Wepula Papo, and then it is always like that many people were killed, and then these are all so right now in Manipur from Myanmar, there has been displaced people from Myanmar, around like 3,000 people. Until right now, we have not heard anything from them yet. And then it seems like they are so safe right now. So this is like Manipur situation, what I would like to share. And then in Manipur, so which regards to border security in Indo-Burma. So from the side of India, they are always concerned. So like those ethnic group like India was quite concerned about this and drug trafficking. So they are concerned about this as well. And lastly, human trafficking. This is also concerned. So India government, not in the northeast state, which is border to Myanmar. So with regards to border security, they have constantly concerned over this. And then and after 2021 military coup, many people, Tite Magui, Chin Sagai, especially in Chin State and Sagai region, they are not safe, and therefore they fled to India. And therefore, right now in India, there has been people around 40,000, 50,000 taking refuge there. So this it has been like 40 to 50,000 people they have accepted India right now. Like Professor has said earlier, they have accepted around like 50,000 refugees. We have to be thankful to them. No, China, then there are a lot of people have been suffering in Thailand as well. So even though UNHCR has protection, given protection, but then in India until today, even if it is not the best, then it is like the situation is quite satisfactory, and then we have to be thankful to the Indian government. What our concern is that it's about drug trafficking. In 2021, 2022, we talked about it earlier as well. In 2021, 2022, drug trafficking has been increased, and therefore people from Myanmar side is carrying this. And then a lot of media talked about that this is like the people from Myanmar. What we are concerned is that what we can say exactly is that drug trafficking, and then this is something that everybody can do it, but then only people who have relationship or have connections can do this. What we can say is that after after the coup, the drug trafficking route, the rule of law mechanism has been broken down, and then the drug trafficking has been increased. We can kind of like study about that as well. So, and then in this, what we can do from our side, and then NUG, or what from the revolution side, what we can do is that in the drug trafficking route, so the forces that handles this route, we need to have drug trafficking control program. So in order not to go through our area, we need to have idea. In the beginning, when you are kind of like going against SEC, you are prioritizing in order to remove the SEC. But then, like they cannot focus on the rule of law within their proximity and their area. So so the real target is the SAC to go against them, and then they focus mainly on that. And then some of the area cannot be prioritized. However, when it comes to this situation, when you can control your area, the rule of law things have to be considered as well. And then so the drug issue is that transboundary crimes, it is very important. And then when you are being accused under this, then this is kind of like quite dangerous, quite sensitive, and therefore the revolutionary forces will be thinking about drug control issues, and they need to be prioritizing this as well. And then this issue for NUG as well in a trans organized crime, and then this drug trade should be a priority for the NUG as well. And this is what I would like to say. And so if I was having the government post, so Chin State is border to the international border. So there are things I could have done, there are things I could not have done. And then within the past 5 years, we were able to do this, especially the police are in cooperation, security forces are cooperating too. But then right now the system has collapsed, and therefore like those who are working on this, who are taking this, they I think they need to have so with the border security issues, so they have to think about this. And then this is like the other side is like revolution issues, and then the other issue they need to think about as a government as well for the coordinated mechanism. So NUG and so and then in the area, everyone needs to cooperate, and then this can be controlled very well. And therefore, so within a few weeks ago, in Phalang Township, CNDF Karachin Defense Force, they have arrested some of the drugs, and then I have heard about it. These are a good thing. So these are the good things, and therefore within their area. So they need to, cannot do it alone. Human trafficking is that you have to do together in a coordinated approach. And if you do so, this is going to be a good thing. Also, so we can relate it to our neighboring countries, like as a government, and then the transnational crime will be handled well. And then it is that we show our country well. So it has been 2 years that the revolution is ongoing, and for for the SAC mechanism has collapsed, and then we have places where we can control well, and including the drug issues and transnational crimes that we can handle. So by having this, we might be able to convince our neighboring countries, like, look at here, we are a government, we can control this, and then we can show them concretely, and among our neighboring country, we can be kind of like a government that shows commitment to our neighboring country as well. Thank you. Thank you very much. And so it has been some times, and then
So since we've been taking quite a bit of time, we'd like to go to the questions. I would like to give this question from the chat box to CI second. I would like to request you, Sia, to respond briefly to the question, and that so in the panelist view, which of Myanmar neighbors is the most likely to change sides and support the revolution? How can they be persuaded to do so? I would like to Salai Khen to respond to this question as a wrap up to the today's discussion. Thank you for the question. And that I think either Dollar Jozo, I think Dollar Jozo as well, and her response. And I think in the Dr. Pumian's answer also, these answer also have been covered as well. And that so that of course that like the expression go, that when the that sometimes in the Myanmar expression go, when the elephant walks, and then a path is created, but then we have to understand also which path will it go as well. But all the neighboring countries have different perspective as well, and that in terms of different perspectives, and I think it is also important to understand they don't have an ad hoc perspective. Myanmar, their policies in Myanmar are not ad hoc as well, and that because they have that that they already have that for the past. They are implementing the policy that they had set for many years. So I think we cannot blame them for that, because that's how they have that's their way of thinking as well. What we need to do is that we need to understand that that to be able to say, we also need to go. So for example, like, we need to look at their interest to be able to move forward as well. For example, like India, they have their own their own interests, and also that China will also have their own interests as well, and that but they have different interests, but they meet. That I think is something we should also learn about it as well. We know that that when we say neighboring countries, that we will often say that that we might not need to, or that we have neighboring countries, and that you can select your neighbors, and that the neighbors will be there. We cannot say no to the neighbor. The neighbors will always be there with us as well, and that so what we understand is that it is important for that to have that the neighboring countries also have that they do have a relevant policy. So I think they will implement the relevant policy. They are not responding to Myanmar on an ad hoc basis. So that it is important that I think it is important also to understand that their agenda and also our agenda. So people will do it differently, and then that and that there are experts who will be will do that. That there are many approaches that experts are doing it. I'm sure they are also doing it as well. So for me, is that we cannot select neighbors, and that the 5 neighboring countries, they always remain with us as well, and that sometimes they will they will get along with us. There are times they won't get along with us as well, but it is, we always have to persuade them so that they will stand by our side. And how we should persuade them has already been covered quite broadly by Siama also, as well as Dr. Myint as well. I just want to add one point about the border issue, is to the extent of my knowledge as well. But I think that if we think about the national interest, if we convey to communicate with them, I'm sure we can persuade the neighboring countries to our side as well. Thank you for your answer. I also see a hand raised, so we don't have much time. So that I will request that our participant to keep it short to the point, because we are really running out of time. Siamintura, you have requested the permission. Thank you. That I have been listening to your answer, and it has been incredible discussion. The question I would like to ask is to either to Dr. Tumi or Dr. Dolha Joso, so that the intervention of China among the ERO is very important. That and that when the fact that Myanmar revolutionary forces are in a way quite silent toward China, we are not really speaking out or speaking up against China. And that what we are seeing is that China always been building their own national interests by infiltrating in the by entering the EROs. That's a shocking update that we have, and the analysis that we have learned here today. So that in the discussions, if you have shared that we have the neighboring countries, and that that we need the support of the neighboring countries, as a point, as was one of the points that have been raised by you, and we hear you. So among the ERO leaders that also do that are there also, do you think the way that you have been discussing, although that I'm think that some of the ERO leaders may be very well aware about China and its plans, and then they might not be able to speak up openly about publicly, and they may be, they may of course often run about this behind the doors. But then for them to be able to speak up, for them to be able to have their voices heard, I think it will also be important for the people to speak up against China. We need to call out China for what they are doing as well. I think shouldn't people be speaking up? Maybe Sia Utumi, are you still here or not? If you're Dolaj also, if you are still here, I would like to analyze it and also give us a message. Shouldn't the people be also speaking out and calling out on China? Yes, I think so. Siama, can you give us a sort of like wrap up to the today discussion, and by answering this question as well? Well, that I said something when I talk about the Chinese strategy, is that Chinese motto is that peace, development, and that cooperation, because they think that there must be peace to have development, and there will be development if there is peace. So I think that's the Chinese mottos. In the same way, that when you look at the border EROs, that for example, like the border EROs, and that those who have there are those who have fractured from the Communist Party in the past, from our party in Myla, in Kogan, and then Kogan. I'm just leaving out Kogan because Kogan is very pro-military. In Myla and Wa area, China has been supporting different way for the economic development as well. And when there was during the COVID-19 pandemic, also China has given a lot of support, a lot of help, and for the stability in it. The China did that. Yes, serious. China has seriously done that. If we look at it, because that the message China wants to give by giving such effort is that if there is peace, And then the evangelists, even if a very remote area, even if the areas are very difficult. One area is somewhere I lived in before, and it was inaccessible. It was in the canyons and the valleys and the mountains, and there was no roads. But there can be development if there is peace, and that they can help people get rich. They can help people become rich and have prosperity, and that's the message. That's what China has shown in such area. Yes, China put pressure on the EROs. That's true. That China is putting pressure on the EROs, and that is true. And that's why some of the EROs have been supporting their PDF, and then that's why they are hesitant to support the PDF, or they are hesitant to relative to support the CDMs because of the Chinese pressure. That is true. But we also have to look at the other point. Something I also have heard is that in Myla area, and that we have like Upoja, when Upongja the Kogan leader passed away, that that some of the NUG people, I don't know for sure, the NUG, even the NUG leaders want to pay respect. All these were facilitated by China. So that in terms of diplomatic dealings, China, we have two approaches. One is called the megaphone approach, that China, like a foreign, like the Chingan, like Chinese foreign minister, they will do a very pompous and ceremonial kind of engagement, and they also exercise quiet diplomacy. So they will do very megaphone, very openly, with a lot of ceremony, and then they also have quiet. I think Wang Junior from the NLD also said something China is engaging with China is engaging with NLD as well as the CRPH or the NUG. So China is always engaging with different actors, and we need to do the same with China. We need to engage them with different levels as well. That yes, we don't like China. There are things we don't like when it comes to China. That for either China, for the neighboring countries, we are not that. But it's not. It's more than that. That whether we like it or not, but we need to. Our priority is to winning this revolution. That for us to win the revolution, that we need to have a good relation with all the neighboring countries as well. Because if we cannot, and why we cannot win the revolution yet, and why should we be looking at other countries and criticizing them? We should be focusing on our own revolution, and we still cannot win against this vicious, atrocious military dictators, and we cannot go and criticize a country where there is prosperity and development. Are they going to revolt that against such government? They won't. Can they revolt? They can't. And how can we should forget about that. We should set that aside. We only have one objective, that is removing the military dictatorship from power. To do that, like Salai has said before, I think it is important to look at the policies of the neighboring country. Their policies and their strategy should be, we need to find what is good for us and focus on that as well. We need to walk our own way. We cannot follow the other ones. I think Xiao Tomi also has said that in his part as well. We have no one but to rely on ourselves. In doing so, we need to use our wisdom. We are a weak country, that we are that it's like that. So we have been very weak, and we have been in a way not damped and thinking how do we engage with others, and we just need to be realistic and think about how do we engage with others and forge forward. Thank you for the wrap up and also for the response as well. So I think so I would like to invite Xiao Tuomien Xia. So the question was that in this for this revolution, and that to win the revolution as soon as possible and to end the military dictatorship, what should people do? What can the people do? What do people need to do it as well? What will be your recommendation for the people of Myanmar as a closing to this today's talk show? People have been doing what they can and what they should as well, and people have supported the energy government. People recognize the energy government. People have transferred the power to the energy government. People are implementing that that what the energy is in it. There is an establishment of the PDF and supporting the PDF, providing protection to the PDF to make sure the PDF will not be arrested by military. It has been incredible the way people have been supporting the movement, and that democratic democracy as well. In a way, it is important that to implement the state power that has been mandated by the people. We don't have to wait until the until after the revolution is over. I think it is important to represent the people. Have to do. It is not just you have to do. It is also important to allow the people. It is important. We are also seeing that there is also the territorial protection. We are doing that on the ground to provide service to the people, and that it is that's something they have to do. You know, in Myanmar, we don't have to wait until the military dictatorship has been taken over. It is important to do whatever we can, whenever we can, all the different places all the people can we do. I think it is important to work with the community. For example, like I've seen things that are being done in the Salai region, and that's why we are also seeing even more of the villages are being destroyed. That's what we are seeing in Khen, we are seeing that in Nidai, we are seeing that in Mon. When the communities are working, focusing on their livelihood, and then that they have been targeted as well. The more people depend on themselves, the more they target the people, the more they will be they're ostracized by the international community. Now they are in now they are in the ICJ, then soon after they will be in ICC. What the people need to do is people need to do more of that for that as well. Another thing is the Tambaro, or the Myanmar, this terrorist military hunter. It is also important to convey the message to the rank and file, the generals, or the the commanding senior and junior commanding officers and the captains and the majors. What they need to know is that they need to be realistic. They need to understand the people. If they are genuine and they want to follow, they want to join the people's side, and they want to join the people embrace, but that they can't due to the conditions. And there are still things they can do, even if they are inside the military. That instead of thinking about the interests of their instead of following the orders of following the orders of the military, which is only for the interests of the military leaders, they can also in a way to make sure the orders are not followed as well. I know that so that we have also seen that the military has been nearly entire regiment defecting during the fighting, and they will not shoot at the target on the ground. No, there are things that they can do, and there are also, and then you can also join the CDM movement. They can also, even if they cannot join the CDM movement, they can also obstruct the mechanism of the military as well. And that I think those who are still working under the military mechanism, they also will need to think clearly what they should do as well. They do think about either they can join the CDM or not. No, the most main thing what they can do is, like, if the military, they are going to deploy a military column, then make sure the tracks are not running. That's the basic of it. So there are many things that they could do to hinder and obstruct as well. If we look back on the history of the international countries around the world, if you look at the United States Civil War, or if you look at the Nazi period of Germany, then there has been if we look at it, the people who have people who have stood by the people as well, there who has stood by the truth as well. And there has also been some of the fighters of the IRA as well. There have been those who have stood by the truth, by the reality. There are many things that you can do. There are many things that they have done so as well. In Myanmar, we call them the watermelon, that they may be inside the military, they may be within the military SAC's mechanism, but they support the democracy movement, and they can do what they can to support. I think if you want to get freedom, if they want to get independence, there are things that they can do to step up the momentum, that they can join the PDF or EROs or the NUG. There are things that you can do. At the same time, if you are still inside the military, if you're part of the military family, there are many things you can do to support the movement as well. So it is important to be cautious of who you are and be aware of the need. And then if you do what you can to support the movement, this way we can bring an end to the military dictatorship. It's not just the people, it also to the military, not only the foot soldier, but also to the officers as well. Second question is also for that for the cronies as well, and that the cronies that it is also important that it is important to stop for the cronies to realize that, and it's important to do that as well. And that so it is also important to ensure that that's as well that that it is important that not only we only do understand that not just the people to do what they can, it is also to the soldiers, and that it is important to do that. There are things that we can do that it is important to know what is the right or what is right, what is wrong, and also to think from that as well, and that make it very clear, not only the message I'm giving not only to the people but also to the soldiers, to the officers, to the cronies, to the businessmen. It is important to have the courage to show up, have the courage to do the right thing, to stand by the right part as well.
ကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်ပါတယ်ဆရာရဲ့အကြံပြုတိုက်တွန်းချက်တွေပုံမှန်လည်းအများကြီးကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ဟုတ်ကဲ့ဒီကနေ့ကျွန်တော်တို့စကားဝိုင်းမှာပေါင်းဆွေးနွေးပေးသွားတဲ့ဆရာဆရာမတို့အားလုံးကိုလည်းကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်
for being part of us today, and then we will stop the discussions here today, and then thank you very much. And then in order for us to build our relationship with our neighboring countries, our strength together in order to stop and then eradicate the dictatorships, our cooperations, and then our unity is very important. And then I would like to stop our discussions today from now on. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, အားလုံးကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်